give you a subpoena and say, hey, are you Francis Malloy? You don't want to go into that lawyer's office and get these questions and say, hey, let's look at all these papers where you said, what the heck were we doing?
Tech News Today.
Hello and welcome to Tech News Today, or TNT. My name is Keith Parks. Today we will discuss the latest tech news and the business value technology solutions can provide. The podcast is for both technical and business executives that want to understand technology updates and what the impacts can be on their business. Today's session will be an in-depth look at a major data breach and the mitigation process. Today's guest, Fran Malloy, will talk us through his experience handling a major data breach as the CISO of a global consumer goods company. Fran will discuss the ongoing process to resolve a data breach and the potential ramifications to the business. Definitely an interesting conversation. Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and jump into a quick interview with Fran Malloy. He's actually a security and technical leader at IBM. Fran's going to just drive through some of the interesting parts that he's found from customers going through breaches, how to protect yourself, and maybe how to mitigate some of the damage going forward. Fran, how are you doing today?
Good, Keith. How are you doing?
I'm good. I love recording on Fridays. It's always interesting.
So just so you know, I've also, before I joined IBM, I was at a outdoor retailer and we had a pretty significant breach there. So I got a little bit of experience dealing with it firsthand.
Absolutely. Yeah. I thought that'd be a great reason to have you on for a quick interview, not only because your background, you went through it yourself from a C-level position and the challenges you had from a business standpoint, but also going forward now with IBM, you've been dealing with a lot of customers that are dealing with data breaches and, how they mitigate it and how they move forward also. So really appreciate your time today. Fran, I tell you, just maybe to start it off, I'll just ask you a couple of questions if you don't mind. Based on your experience, what are the top actions that customers can take to protect themselves from a data breach, to begin with?
Well, it depends on, really how sophisticated you are as a organization. But the very first thing you have to have, and a lot of organizations have this already, are backups. Because nowadays you're going to have a lot of breaches that are ransomware and they're going to encrypt your data. So you have to make sure you have immutable backups, meaning the backups aren't corrupted either. So it's not just having the backups, but it's actually testing the recovery of the backups and making sure you can recover. So that's one of the more important things that you can do. And that's kind of bread and butter, basics type of stuff. But after that, after you have backups, you should do things like make sure that your attack surface from the outside and from the inside. So where are all my devices and what is the attacker going to see? Those type of things. And other things you can do are if you're an attacker, you're really looking for an ID and you're looking for an ID that's a super user ID. So you need some products and things like that might help reduce that exposure. So look for products like that can secure those IDs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you seeing customers actually doing this well, or are they struggling in these areas?
I think they're struggling in testing the backups. I think they're struggling in what do I do first? So for instance, when I was a director of security, I had my guys coming to me every day saying, hey, we got a problem here. We got a problem here. We got a problem here. And it was like, okay, do I work on what you said yesterday or do I work on it today? So some of it is putting a plan together. It might be a 3-year plan that says, here's the most important things I should do this year, next year, and the following year. Because your management is going to say, hey, when is this going to end? Am I going to completely invest in this? And it's not an investment that you make that's going to generate more revenue. It's going to reduce your risk.
Right, absolutely. So unfortunately, let's say you go through a data breach as you went through, what are some of the top priorities that, to mitigate the damage from a data breach a customer can take?
So mitigating the damage. So from a business standpoint, you're going to go through certain things like for instance, you might have a class action lawsuit at the end of this.
Hmm.
So you're going to have to figure out, okay, how do I mitigate the effect of that? So you're going to have to talk to your legal team and they should prepare for, okay, who do I put under attorney-client privilege? What can I write down? What can I say? All those type of things and how to prepare yourself. That might be one of the other things. The other thing is you've got reputational damage here. So you're going to have an announcement. You're going to have to tell your customers. So you've got to prepare for that. And for us, for instance, the announcement was a bit different from a IT standpoint. It was really a business announcement where we had 8,000 store employees. They were all part-time at store employees. But if I sent you a letter that gave you free credit reporting, guess what you would do? Keith, you'd run down to the store. So
Yes,
when you ran
absolutely.
down to the store, you got to make sure those store employees know what to do. So you've got outside legal you have to use, you've got outside forensics firm if you don't have the staff, and you've got outside PR firms. So you've got to kind of think through beforehand, if I have a breach, what do I do and what's my incident response plan going to be?
Interesting. Yeah. In some of your presentations before, I've heard you actually talk about, having a good relationship with the FBI. Did that prove to be helpful? I mean, do you see that nowadays? Are they as overwhelmed with all their breach stuff going on also, or can they really help you?
Well, they can help you in a few ways. Number one is they understand what's coming out there. So they can tell you what's happening with other merchants or things like that or other firms. So they can give you an idea and help you with that. Um, the other thing is, though, they can't necessarily share any information about any ongoing investigation. So that might be an issue. But they also, since they see all of these, they can help you as far as blocking IP addresses and things like that. So it
Hmm.
is very, very important to keep them involved. The other thing you want to ask is, should I pay the ransom? If it's ransomware, should I pay the ransom or not? They're going to have an opinion on that.
Yeah.
But depending on how your backups are, you may be in a position where you'll have to. So
Right.
they are. So what I would suggest is that you have at least a relationship with your local FBI office, the forensics division of that. And I think that they can help you also.
Hmm, interesting. Okay. It's interesting talking to different customers. I hear that they have a really big issue in a couple of areas from a business standpoint. After a breach, their cyber insurance, it always seems to be they don't really understand or they don't know exactly what they're going to get until they go through it. And then
Yeah.
obviously after they go through it, it seems that they get, just like a bad driver, so to speak. You get put into a pool of risk of some type, so your costs go up. And also on the merchant services side, it seems a lot of companies that take credit cards, they have the same kind of issue. They get put into a negative pool and their costs go up and they just get treated differently. Is this something you experienced also?
Yes. Yes. It'll affect your merchant costs if you have if you send something to somebody like Bank of America Merchant Services and things like that, they're looking at the risk of authorizing your payments and things like that. So you're going to get caught there. The cyber insurance, you should consider cyber insurance right now as another step in mitigating your risk because it's gotten to the point where you can mitigate the risk, but you can't make it all go away. So you've really got to look at cyber insurance beforehand, but and their technology and their people. So you've got to do all of those type of things. If you have a serious security program and serious executive involvement, meaning they're all on board, you can minimize your risk pretty
Right.
well.
Okay. It's funny. I just remember you said something earlier about, documenting different things about the data breach. Is that kind of a gotcha also? Is that something that people have to be concerned about?
Well, it is. If you're outside, so we had to use an outside legal firm to tell us because we only had really one chief legal counsel and two lawyers. So we only had three lawyers. They didn't have any experience in litigation for, breaches and things like that. So you're going to depend on your outside legal firm here. And they should be the ones telling you. And you should probably get with your legal firm, your legal team beforehand to help the whole business say, what should I write? What shouldn't I write? And things like that. So, for instance, we're in the middle of trying to figure out what's going on, and the forensics investigator's not writing anything down. He's not emailing us.
Hmm.
It's all verbal. And the reason for that is to minimize the amount of discoverable information, because that's the last thing you want is when they knock on your door and get these questions and say, hey, let's look at all these papers where you said, what the heck were we doing? You know,
Yeah,
you want to
right.
have control of that situation. So
Yeah, because
yeah,
they can go after all your records, right? Email, texting, it's all discoverable at that point, correct?
yeah, even podcasts like this.
Ah, oh my God, here we go. Might you get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good. Well, hey, Fran, I kind of like to wrap up the discussion, just kind of a forward-looking conversation. From a customer standpoint, going out, 1, 3, 5 years. You're in the industry. What do you think is coming down the pipeline that they should really pay attention to? That could be big gotchas, or maybe even solutions that make a lot of sense that'll help them, not only prevent breaches but mitigate the damage.
Well, what's really interesting is there's a big hoopla right now about AI, and it's warranted. It is warranted because right now, if I go into Chat GPT, I can write a much better email that'll trick you into a phishing statement. So, so
Ah,
you've got to
true.
be prepared from an AI standpoint that it's going to get harder. But there's other things that you can do is how can I use AI to help me? That's what you got to look into too. Are there security products? Are there security systems? Are there things in my own environment where I can use AI to help me? Those are the type of things that we're going to see now. AI in security and how AI helps the bad guys too. You've got to keep that in mind right now. You've got to be vigilant. So, backups started with backups. You got to make sure that works all the time. And you got to make sure they're immutable. You got to make sure that they can't encrypt it. Those type of things are what we see going forward.
Interesting. So it seems like cyber security and cyber resiliency is kind of blended together at this point. Is that something that you've seen or kind
Yes,
of agree
yes,
with?
it
It
is.
seems like they're all
So,
security and data center people should be responsible for both sides. It sounds like.
yes. If they're going after your trade secrets, if they're going after credit cards and things like that, you could see that business could be happening and you could keep on going and they're taking credit cards and they're taking trade secrets. You've got to make sure you're okay with that because you don't need to back up your systems for that. But you got to get them out of your system. So,
Right, right. You got to get back down to ground zero where you can actually move forward again without the bad guys or bad actors around. I get it.
right, right.
Okay. Well, great. Well, Fran, hey, I really appreciate your time today. Great information. We're here to obviously empower and inform our customers. So hopefully, you enjoyed the session. Is there any final words or words of wisdom you want to leave everybody as we wrap this up?
No, I think I've covered it all. I just really like your blue shirt and your white undershirt there.
Ah,
Sound
I tell you, I always dress up, especially for people like yourselves. All right, Fran. Well, thanks a lot. Really appreciate the time today, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
that sounds great.
Hey, thank you for joining us today for this Tech News Today session. We really appreciate your time and strive to provide valuable content. If you'd like to be notified when we post new videos, please like and subscribe to this channel. We produce over 250 technology events every year, focusing on the tech value and the good and bad impacts on business. Topics include cybersecurity, AI, cloud strategy, and other current technology solution topics. We have cyber resiliency webinars scheduled for this month where the focus will be on real world use case information, how to protect your data, and how to minimize the damage to your business. If you're interested in attending, please see the link below or send an email to me. That's at kparks@innovateims.com, and we will send your invitations to our upcoming events. Thanks again for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you on a future TNT session. I hope you have a great rest of your day. So long.